Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2019. First shown back at the Game Awards, Journey to the Savage Planet is the first game from Typhoon Studios. Here to tell us just what's so savage about this planet is creative director and co-founder of Typhoon, Alex Hutchinson, and IGN's Destin Legary, who I'm 80% certain is from space.
Hello, humans.
Greetings. Alex, thanks for coming by.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So this is a game that got shown off at the Game Awards. It's a space exploration game. You run around. There's aliens. We've seen games like this before. On closer inspection, this game is goofy as hell and looks like just like a very silly good time.
Yeah, like we were going for, we call it in the office an earnest comedy, and we wanted to get back to sort of optimistic, positive, refreshing games that were fun to be in, So you've been sent to space by Kindred Aerospace, who are the fourth best interstellar space exploration company. They sent you there with absolutely no gear but a lot of hope, and they've dumped you on a planet that should have no intelligent life, and as soon as you get there, you see this enormous tower, which you can kind of see there in the corner. So obviously something is amiss. So you have lots of different concurrent quests. One is to catalog everything that you see, all the flora, all the fauna, and see if this is a suitable home for future humanity. And the other is to get to the bottom of that mystery of what's in that tower and why is it there.
So I love the humor. You've really nailed that aspect of the game. I'm kind of curious, how do you unlock new weaponry? How do you power up your we'll call hero or adventurer?
Adventurer, yeah. It really is you in space. There's no sort of named character in it. It's you on this journey. It's got a bit of a Metroidvania feel to it in that you will come across obstacles, be they cliffs or certain sort of locked doors or sort of amber, which might have covered over an area that you need, and you need to find the right ingredients to upgrade your gear to get past it. So it's sort of open exploration. You can go in a lot of different directions at once. So hopefully people have a fun time sort of free roaming around our world.
Now we've seen a lot of there's a lot of dual wielding here. What is the thing in the left hand there?
Yeah, so basically, we'd spent a lot of time trying. It's definitely not a shooter, even though there is shooting. And at the start of the game, you don't even have a gun. And we spent a long time trying to say, can we make this without a weapon? But it was just asked for over and over again. Every time we put the game in front of someone, they said, yeah, that's all great. You have these crazy things in your left hand. You have Grob here, which you can use as bait. You have these weird little acid balloons you can find on trees that can melt the amber I mentioned earlier. But people just said over and over again, yeah, but I'd really like a gun. So you do have one gun. There's only one gun in the game that you can upgrade in various ways. But yes, you can defend yourself from the more threatening creatures.
Is it like a matter of sort of equipping one or the other, or you constantly have both hands up there?
You have both hands all the time because we wanted the sort of combinatoric effect of being able to throw something to get an effect like stick a creature to the ground, then shoot it, or lure a creature somewhere else while using your weapon. So we're trying as much as possible to like open it up for player expression.
How much info do we have going in about the aliens on this planet? Do we know anything? Has our fourth best bosses given us any info?
No, they're absolutely incompetent, and they have given you absolutely no information. And so everything that you stumble across is a shock to them back home. We like to think of them as like the world's worst version of SpaceX. So they built the rocket and then they just started launching people, without going through all of the necessary safety steps.
I love that. I'm getting kind of like a spaceman spiff, like Gary Larson vibe from this. And it's also, people have compared it a lot to sort of a first-person Ratchet and Clank. What kind of influences did you guys have going into this?
Yeah, we loved that they said Ratchet and Clank. I really love the art style in Ratchet and Clank. I love how that game looks. We hadn't thought of it actually while we were doing it. We were just trying to stay away from the familiar tropes and the grays and the browns that still sort of dominate, especially the first-person space, and have a world that you wanted to explore. So yeah, there's everything. For me, it's a lot of golden age science fiction. It's sort of is inspired by those stories, those movies, those books where people went on adventures for the sake of adventure. You're not escaping something. You're going there because we should, and it's important and it's interesting to go and explore an alien world.
So that puzzle we just saw where an alien goes into some sort of machine and gets eaten, basically, is that something that was already on the planet? Is that something we built? What's going on there?
I don't want to give it too much away because kind of like what on earth has happened with this strange busted planet is part of the sort of central mystery, but everything that you find was already there, and there's kind of a subtext through the game as you as the sort of the conquering force is sort of ruining this beautiful world as you progress.
Now, you mentioned it's sort of a Metroidvania. How does it work in terms of sort of exploration? Is it fairly open, or are you sort of funneled into different areas?
Yeah, we wanted it to be very open, but it's still, like Typhoon is just 24 people, and we realized very quickly, despite having worked in a lot of AAA companies before, we were never going to be able to make a game as sort of big and broad as we had previously. So it is quite focused, but there's usually 2 to 4 quests active at any time that you've discovered that you can mix and match and prioritize. And the game is packed with secrets and weird little corners as we could possibly make it.
Still, all that said, you've shown off several different biomes. What kind of areas are we going to be exploring?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like here, you can see this is your habitat, the javelin. One of the cute things, it is an earnest comedy, as we said. So whenever you go back out and come in, they revenue raise at Kindred Aerospace by playing you advertisements. So you're forced to watch strange and weird future ads whenever you come back to your habitat while you're trying to save yourself from whatever beast you've encountered outside. But yeah, like there's as much weird and wacky locations as we can put together, and we've sort of packed it into a relatively small area because the game, we're aiming to be sort of like 10 hours long. It's a game for people who are time compressed. We're all getting a bit older. The idea of a 1,000-hour game is not exciting to many of the teams anymore. So it's a bespoke, hand-built, crafted world of about 10.
I really appreciate that. I feel like there are so many big, huge, like massive games out there, and it's I like to play a lot of smaller, different ones sometimes. Now, obviously, the team at Typhoon, you guys, small team, 24 people, you said.
Yep.
You come from a lot of different AAA backgrounds. You were creative director on Far Cry 4 and Assassin's Creed 3.
Yep.
Both of which are games that have lots of wilderness and weird critters out there.
Yeah.
What kind of experience do you and the team have that you've kind of brought into this? Like, what are sort of?
Yeah, I like that. I think that you're right. I didn't think about it. Someone mentioned it the other day, but that sort of idea of the wilderness has come through the last few games that I've worked on. And I think it's cool, like the idea of you as a person, exploring a new space and finding new opportunities is really exciting to me. And it reminds me again of like all those old movies I grew up on, or like even Indiana Jones movies of being an archaeologist, like fossicking around and stuff and trying to find something.
I like it's an earnest comedy, but it's sort of an optimistic, colorful adventure too.
It's very optimistic. Like you can, bad things can happen to you, but you're here for the right reasons and hopefully to have a good time.
You've been writing a column for Edge magazine, is that right?
Yep.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I thought it would be fun to document the process of sort of quitting a AAA company and throwing away security and all of the good things that come with that, and starting a company with a bunch of friends. And it's been about 2.5 years now, and it's we've had our highs and our lows of sort of figuring out staffing, how payment schedules, like how we handle vacation, all that sort of stuff, as well as the more interesting stuff of how do you make a good game with a small team, and what sort of game should you make if you're going to quit a big studio. So yeah, we've been sort of documenting that month to month.
And sorry, Max. What's been the most rewarding aspect of that process?
I think the most rewarding aspect is if you think it's funny, as you just saw, to kick a spherical bird off a cliff and shoot it and have it explode into goo, then you can just do it. So it's like the team's sense of humor has really come through in the game. I think it's come across as very sort of honest and earnest, which is great, and we don't have to have 1,000 meetings, about the color of the assassin's sash, for example, if we want to make it blue. So there's a level of freedom that's been really refreshing.
That's cool. Yeah, you guys are kind of doing the sort of the grown-up, boring, business legwork, so you get to do the fun legwork, which is kicking the weird bird.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
I love that. So this is slated for early 2020?
Early 2020 on PlayStation 4, on PlayStation, Xbox, and the Epic Store.
Very cool. Is there anything more you can tell us about it? We got sort of a boss fight here.
Yeah, just like it does come to a point. Like there's 3 big biomes that come. This is the end of biome 1, so you'll have to upgrade your gear, explore the world, and eventually you'll come to a sort of a choke point where you have to use all the things you upgraded in that biome to sort of overcome a sort of final boss or boss blocker. And then hopefully everyone spends some time turning over every rock in the game.
So as you power up and encounter each of these bosses, it looks like you'll have to utilize what you've learned to take on each encounter. Like this guy's fast, the last guy was fairly stationary, but you had to use crouching and jumping, right?
Exactly, and it's as much as possible, like not just about the shooting. So it's more about, I think, finding these weird and wonderful corners of the map, as well as it is overcoming combat challenges. But yeah, there's sort of traversal challenges, there's combat challenges, and the odd weird puzzle as well.
Right.
Now, obviously, you've got a lot of sort of ground stuff here. Is there any underwater sequences?
We really wanted to do underwater. Like, we had a scuba mask designed and a little oxygen meter and all that sort of stuff, and then it just became an entire other game. Like all the throwables that you had didn't work underwater, and so it was just too much work for the first one. But we're still discussing it internally.
I think that's okay. Actually, I secretly hate doing underwater stuff. It makes me claustrophobic. But this, so you've got the little sort of the treats you throw. You got the acid balloons. Can you sort of tell us any other sort of mechanics we have in the game?
Yeah, you can see some of this stuff. Like we toyed with the idea that you can sort of build your own path through encounters. So there are these weird postulant balls you can throw that turn into a sort of a bounce pad. So before you've upgraded your jetpack, you can use those to bounce around the environment. There's plants that you can harvest to get grapple seeds. So they'll grow on moss. So if you find mossy areas, you can build your own grapple path up through the environment. So as much as possible, we want to, player expression to play a part in the game. Although it's still, it's an indie game, so it's not full price. So it's going to, it's not going to be as robust as maybe we would make at a AAA studio.
And the gun that he has in all the sequences, is that upgradable? Does it change? It looks like he was loading different ammo types or something.
Yeah, you can upgrade it to we have sort of like I always thought of it like almost like a super soaker. You can overclock it. You know what I mean? So once you upgrade the gun, you can reload again and make it bigger. The first upgrade is just sort of more damage, and then you can reload again, and that bounces between several enemies, and then you can reload again, and it bounces around and then detonates at the end. So being a bit over the top is the hope.
Well, awesome. Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Destin, thank you. This is I'm excited about this. Journey to the Savage Planet is coming to Xbox One, PS4, and the Epic Store sometime early next year. There's more E3 to come, but right now we have to take a journey to a short break. If you keep watching, I will try not to say anything that stupid for the rest of the show. Anyway, what's next?
Thanks, Max. We've got some exciting stuff right around the corner. First, I'll be taking a look at the Soulsborne shooter Remnant from the Ashes with developer Gunfire Games. Next, Bandai Namco is in the house to show off Code Vein. And later, don't miss a very special episode of Unlocked with celebrity guest Kumail Nanjiani. If you're just tuning into E3, well, you're kind of late. Luckily, we've got a quick recap. Here's E3 2019 in 2 minutes. We'll be back right after this.